This is our astronomy unit. This lesson focuses in on small objects in our solar system. So how do scientists classify small objects in the solar system? The solar system contains many small objects that, like the planets, orbit the sun. Scientists classify these objects based on their sizes, shapes, compositions, and orbits. The major categories include dwarf planets, comets, asteroids, and meteoroids. Most of the small objects in the solar system are found in three areas: the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt, and the Oort cloud. The asteroid belt is a region of the solar system between Mars and Jupiter. Beyond Neptune's orbit is a region called the Kuiper belt, which extends to about 100 times Earth's distance from the Sun. Beyond the Kuiper belt is the Oort cloud, and it stretches out more than 1,000 times the distance between the Sun and Neptune. This image shows these different regions. So looking at this picture, you will notice that it is in your notes. Put a C to show where you would expect to find a comet coming from. Write a D in the area where you would expect to find a dwarf planet. And then finally, write an A to show where you would expect to find an asteroid. So what happened to Pluto? As we all know, Pluto used to be classified as a planet, and it is currently classified as a dwarf planet. There are a number of other objects out near Pluto, and scientists have begun to debate whether they should be considered planets or dwarf planets. In 2006, astronomers developed a new category of objects called dwarf planets. These objects orbit the Sun and have enough gravity to pull themselves into spheres, but they have other objects in the area of their orbit. As of 2009, scientists had identified 5 dwarf planets. We've talked about those dwarf planets in the past. This picture shows a number of them. Eris is believed to be the largest dwarf planet, so it's actually larger than Pluto. There are at least a dozen more objects that may turn out to be dwarf planets once scientists are able to study them. Like planets, dwarf planets can have moons. Pluto has 3 moons: Charon, Nix, and Hydra. Haumea has 2, and Eris has 1. All of the known dwarf planets except Ceres orbit beyond Neptune. Ceres orbits in the asteroid belt. A dwarf planet that orbits beyond Neptune is also called a Plutoid. Most Plutoids orbit the Sun in the Kuiper belt, though Eris may be beyond it. The Kuiper belt also includes many other objects that are too small to be considered dwarf planets. A comet is one of the most dramatic objects you can see in the night sky. On a dark night, you can see its fuzzy white head and long streaming tails. Comets are loose collections of ice, dust, and small rocky particles whose orbits can be very long. They have narrow ellipses as well. Some comets have smaller orbits that bring them near Earth regularly. Most comets originate in the Oort cloud. When a comet gets close to the Sun, the energy in sunlight turns the ice into gas, releasing gas and dust. Clouds of gas and dust form a fuzzy outer layer called a coma. The solid inner core of a comet, the nucleus, is usually only a few kilometers across. As a comet approaches the Sun, it heats up and starts to glow. Some of its gas and dust stream outward, forming a tail. Most comets have two tails, a gas tail and a dust tail. The gas tail points away from the sun, and the dust tail points along the path the comet has taken. A comet's tail can be more than 100 million kilometers long, and from Earth appears to stretch across most of the sky. This picture right here shows a comet's orbit. Again, they have long, narrow orbits. Their ellipses are very, very elongated. Here's another picture from farther out. Asteroids. Hundreds of small, irregular, rocky objects orbit the Sun. These asteroids are rocky objects, most of which are too small and too numerous to be considered planets or dwarf planets. Astronomers have discovered more than 100,000 asteroids, and they are constantly finding more. Most asteroids are very small, less than a kilometer in diameter. There are a number of them that are larger than 300 kilometers across. Ceres is one of them. Ceres is both a dwarf planet and the largest asteroid. Most asteroids are not spherical. Scientists hypothesize that asteroids are leftover pieces of the early solar system that never came together to form a planet. Most asteroids orbit the Sun in the asteroid belt. Some, however, have very elliptical orbits that bring them closer to the Sun than Earth's orbit. Someday, an asteroid will hit Earth. One or more large asteroids did hit Earth. Scientists think this may have occurred around 65 million years ago. This impact would have filled the atmosphere with dust and smoke and blocked out a large amount of sunlight. Scientists hypothesize that many species of organisms, including the dinosaurs, may have become extinct from this event. Chunks of rock or dust smaller than asteroids are called meteoroids. Meteoroids are generally less than 10 meters across. Some meteoroids form when asteroids collide. Others form when comets break up, creating dust clouds. When a meteoroid enters Earth's atmosphere, friction with the air creates heat and produces a streak of light. This streak is a meteor. People often call meteors shooting stars, but they're not stars. Most meteors come from tiny bits of rock or dust that burn up completely. But some larger meteoroids do not burn up. Meteoroids that pass through the atmosphere and are found in Earth's surface are called meteorites. Meteorite impacts can leave craters. So here's a picture of the difference between a meteor and a meteoroid. A meteor can become a meteorite if it comes in contact with the ground. This picture shows a meteorite that has come in contact with Earth. And here's an impact crater. Meteor showers occur when Earth passes through an area with many meteoroids. Some of these groups of meteoroids are bits of comet that broke up. These meteor showers occur every year as Earth passes through the same areas. Meteor showers are often named for the constellation from which they appear to come. The Perseids, Geminids, and Orinids are examples of meteor showers. This is a time-lapse photo of a meteor shower. Typically, we don't see that many meteors occurring at one time. So for each description below, classify the object as a dwarf planet, comet, asteroid, or meteoroid. Number 1, the object is slightly smaller than Pluto. It orbits the Sun beyond Neptune and is spherical. Number 2, this object is irregularly shaped. It orbits the Sun just outside the orbit of Mars. Number 3, this object is a chunk of rock and metal. It was once part of another object that orbited the Sun. Number 4, this object is composed of ice and rock. It orbits the Sun in an elongated orbit, taking many years to complete one orbit. And then finally, which two objects are the hardest to tell apart and why? This needs to be answered in a complete sentence. With each of these 5 questions, please answer them in your note sheet.